We're honored to have in our studio today two members of a band that goes way back to the 70s, and they are now back doing it again. The band is called Crack of Dawn, and we're joined by Alvin Jones and Trevor Daley of the band. First of all, are you guys both original members of the Crack of Dawn band that we heard back in the 70s?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are, definitely.
We started it from day one.
Yeah,
Really?
You can see that. You can see our before and after pictures, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm looking at it right now.
Can
You
you
guys.
pick out Trevor and can you pick me out?
Yeah, I got him. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Now there was some prodigious afros happening back then. There was some hair, man. It was gloriously good.
Oh yeah, and costumes.
Yep.
You know, you can tell Trevor. He has the. If you look at the old picture, if you can sort of put it on pause there, you can see him with that fancy cape.
They used to call it. The band used to ask me, Trevor, come on, man, you got to wear your Kermit outfit.
Yeah.
Do you still have the cape?
Yeah.
Come on, yes you do.
We like that cape, man. It was good.
Now, many have described you guys as a Canadian Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you guys take that as a compliment, or do you say, hey, listen, we are our own band. We are Crack of Dawn. We may share a lot of the influences of Earth, Wind, and Fire, but that's not who we are.
I didn't.
Go ahead, Trevor.
I didn't like the correlation at all myself, because I think we're totally different. I loved Earth, Wind, and Fire, and what we did was a lot different from Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know, but I think it's because of the quality of what we did, like the costumes that we wore, you know, and the fact that when there's a big band, the vocals, you know, I think that's why people said, oh, yeah, they're Canadian Earth, Wind, Fire. But it's not a bad thing, but it's not something that, well, then you say, wow, we are Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know, no.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what you just said. I mean, we certainly, everybody in the band admired the stuff that Earth, Wind, and Fire was coming out with. We never consciously thought of ourselves as Earth, Wind, and Fire. We just admired them like we did any other band that was playing music that we liked. You know what I mean? That was about it. But, of course, people started, because Trevor said, because of the outfits and maybe the sound or something might have been similar, because we did cover some Earth, Wind, and Fire songs, you know, in the clubs and so on. And so that could have been the reason why people sort of put it together. But we had we never even thought about it seriously, to be honest. You know?
So
Well, before, you know, before, maybe later on I'll explain something to you about the Earth, Wind, and Fire correlation. I'll tell you about that later on.
Okay, remind us. We don't want to forget that.
Yeah, because So you guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 piece,
Yes.
8 piece,
Sometimes 10.
sometimes 10.
Could even be 11.
So coming from a drummer background, the etiquette goes that the rehearsals come to the drummer's house.
Oh,
So if my mom witnessed like 9 dudes rolling in and there's trombones and saxophones, how does the rehearsal sequence go? Because when you've got that many parts in a band, there must be, you guys have to be razor sharp because you don't want to have parts sound lack of tight, right? As well as how does the writing process go with that many members in a band, and you don't want to be stepping on other instruments' toes with having that many possible sounds.
Yeah, I think in the beginning when we were recording with Columbia Records and so on, I mean, the record company basically, they're the ones that said, well, look, guys, these are the songs we want you to do. We had to sort of, you know, beg to get 1 or 2 of our own original stuff, you know, on the albums. You know what I mean? So it was a difficult process. But now that we're sort of reinventing ourselves, the whole industry has changed. So now, you know, what we do is a collective process, because everybody in our group can write music, can produce, you know, so we just say, look, forget about it. We're going to share everything equally. We want contributions from everybody, because you never know what idea is going to go over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how we sort of approach it now. You know, I want everybody to put in their ideas from everybody. You know, and that's what we did with this album, and that's why it's sort of taken off.
Wow.
If it doesn't fit, there's one person that, like our producer, Carl Harvey, you will just say, oh, no, don't put that there. You know,
Okay.
we'll put that somewhere else, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But we have to be conscious of everybody's talent, and the singer, you don't want the horns crowding the singer. Or
That's
whatever,
I was going to ask.
So we kind of work collectively, consciously about that kind of stuff.
Because as a band, I mean, let's say it's a 4-piece, you have 4 voices with 4 potential thoughts on any given section of a song. You guys got 9 and 10, and 9 or 10 dudes that are all probably thinking very strongly about their idea. There must be some. Is there like? Are we talking fights? Are there arm wrestles? How are we? How are we deciding who gets what when?
It was close to that last night at rehearsal.
Good. There you go. This is what we want. We want the dirt.
I wouldn't be picking on Trevor. I'll tell you that.
No, he's big boy.
Because one guy,
Yeah, they were doing some little bit of sophistication last night. Him and the bass player, but it was just joking.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some little tension there because, as you said, the emotions come up when someone comes up with an idea and they want their idea to succeed over the next person's. So yeah, they were it was getting pretty some tension there last night, man. So that does happen.
and we ended up doing the idea that we thought everybody thought was the right idea.
Right.
So the person that had the other idea was,
Yeah.
Let's go back to the early 70s because every band doesn't just form and like, here's 9 people, let's all get together and play. It usually starts with 1 or 2 people, and then you gain more. So let's go back to the genesis of Crack of Dawn. How did that all begin?
Go ahead, Trevor.
well, Rupert, the guitar player, myself, and this bass player named Mark Smith. We were with a group called the Cougars at the time. We were playing like all across northern Ontario. And we came back and the band broke up. And I broke up on the terms that I did not even want to see an instrument. I didn't want to hear music. I didn't want to listen to radio.
Why was that?
Because I had a bad experience with some personnel inside the band at the time.
Okay.
Just like we were speaking of.
And it's never the drummer, right? It's never the drummer.
Of course not.
Was it the drummer? Yeah, the drummer.
He's the first one.
The drummer was one of the guys.
Who was that drummer?
That was-
Oh, you're not saying that. Okay.
But anyway, so, when we got back, I took off and didn't see anybody. Rupert is the one that said, he came looking for me. And he found me and said, Trevor, man, we should start, let's put the band together again. So we said, okay, let's do it, And I think we had a bass player, then Alvin came in. We brought Alvin in, and Dwight was our trumpet player who passed away a couple of years ago. And who else? Carl Otway, who was the drummer. We have original drummer still,
And you guys have come from different places in the world to congregate in Toronto?
Actually, I was born in Jamaica. I came to Canada when I was very young. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't have an accent.
I was going to say, where was Trevor born? Let me guess.
And then, of course, Trevor is what you call a real Jamaican. And they make me wear that all the time.
Oh, really?
I can't even pretend. Like you guys can pretend to have a Jamaican accent.
No,
and you can and Trevor will accept that. But I can't do it.
Right. You're a wannabe.
I don't want to even hear him try.
He's a wannabe Jamaican.
You could do a better job than he does.
Wow.
I get that all the time, man.
And this is what happens during the writing process.
Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, we've got people from Jamaica. We've got people from
Antigua,
Grenada. We've got people from Hungary. Our keyboard player. I know you're like,
what?
Yeah.
But the music scene was quite interesting back in the early 70s. And as far as a band trying to play R&B soul type music, what was that like for you guys to try to find places that were saying, yes, this is the sound we want right now?
Well, all the stuff will tell you that back in the 70s, a lot of the bands that were popular back then in the nightclub scene were a lot of American groups.
Yeah.
And that was like right from Toronto right through to Montreal. The Americans were, any club you go to, the American bands there, the place is packed. And as so-called Canadian group, which we were at the time, it was much more difficult. And we had to really practice hard and to be really, really good in order for us to get any form of recognition or engagements and so on. So we worked really hard at that, and we were able to, we started off going to all the small little places from St. Catharines and Kitchener and Windsor, and then we had gigs like all of a sudden we're playing downtown Toronto. Then on Monday we're starting in Thunder Bay.
I've done that circuit. Let me tell you.
And you're driving in your van with your equipment up to Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And somebody out of weird places like Kapuskasing and all. We did it all, man. So we covered a lot of ground back in the early days. You know, we paid our dues, and it was by chance that one day we were rehearsing in the studio, a rehearsal studio down on Eglinton and Oakwood. It was called Mason's Music, and we were in the basement there and practicing away. And I don't know how we got involved with this guy named Shane Bennett. He was a cool talking guy. He was a white dude, and he had his Corvette and. We were just young guys. And
Music producer, I assume.
Yeah.
Shane sounds shady a little bit.
Did he have a fur coat on?
He was the manager.
He was a cool dude, man.
You've seen Spinal Tap?
Oh yes, he's Liam.
He was the guy.
You guys didn't get involved with Shane, did you?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
He was our
All right.
manager for a lot. He was
Yeah.
a good guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Good.
But he was like, as Rupert would call him, the Larry Tate in the music industry.
Yeah.
The thing is, you need someone to believe in you, and you need somebody who has balls and has no fear to go and knock on doors and get in people's faces and say, these guys are the greatest, you must listen to them. Is
Right.
that the experience that you found with Shane?
Yeah, well, that's what happened because one day, all of a sudden, we see this guy, and he's a big time Colombian. Colombia.
He
So
may have
money
been.
won't be an issue then, huh?
Columbia record producer Bob Gallo, and
Yep.
he came right into our little rehearsal hall there on Oakwood and Eglinton, and he said, "Yeah, this Columbia Records is looking for some, R&B act because Bob
Yeah.
Gallo did a lot of work with I think
Otis
it was
Redding.
Otis Redding, and all kinds of people, James
Yeah,
Brown,
yeah.
a lot of those black artists in
Yep.
the U.S.
Yep.
Bob Gallo was producing a lot of stuff for them, and they were looking for some Canadian content, and he wanted to do some R&B. So somehow Shane hooked up with Bob Gallo, brought him to our little rehearsal there. He listened, and he said, "Okay, I want these guys. Shane,
Whoa.
take them into Captain Audio." So we went to Captain.
No, we went to rehearsal up in Collingwood. With Ben went to rehearsal in Collingwood, and we put the songs together that we wanted to record.
Yeah.
We wrote all the songs, and we were excited about the songs that we wrote. We went into Captain Audio, and then recorded the songs.
Yeah.
And the record company said, "Nah, that's not what we want. This is what we want."
Right.
And they gave us their songs
Yeah.
and didn't take ours at all.
Hey, don't feel bad because the Beatles themselves went through the same thing, putting
Yep,
their first album together, where their producer, George Martin, said, listen, until you give me what I deem as a hit, here are the songs that you guys are going to record. And then as you progress, you obviously build up your own.
Yep.
But off that first album, was there a song of your own that you guys look back and say, I'm really glad that they included that on the album?
Well, for me, the off the album, the one that I liked the most is that Boardwalking song, which not too many of these guys like, but I liked it.
I
Because,
liked it.
because it was, where it was right off the floor. Everybody just got in there and started jamming.
Yeah, that was done when the producer was not in the studio.
Engineer
was there,
We were
and
just
we just-
horsing around.
Let's
Yeah,
just
fooling
jam.
around.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hit
it's
record,
whoa,
please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the original version of it, if you remember, I felt it. It was great. The producer came in the next day and said, "Yeah, okay, let me fix that."
Wow.
Took away the feeling.
No, don't fix, don't fix.
But yeah, it was an interesting song, and I think it was called Boardwalking, and I think did they get some guys? It was about Bob Gallo did help in terms of writing the lyrics. Remember, he threw some lyrics together and stuff like that, and added. Everybody sort of contributed. That's where and that was the best project. I think that's been embedded in my mind, in my subconscious. That's why today I'm using that sort of analogy in putting our things together, because that was the most successful thing. Everybody sort of collaborated on it, and you can hear it in the music, the feel, everything, and it worked.
And let Mother Nature have her way.